I keep telling y'all, street got no God. God do not look after street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. I just was waiting.
Things this case has stopped me from doing, traveling all across the world, making. So I just want to get it over with, and, you know, accept my guilty plea. I'm ready to get over it.
Anything you want to say to your fans?
Just say a prayer for me. I just need prayer.
Boosie Badis could be facing a tough 10-year sentence in his federal case. And right when the news hit the blogs, Charleston White jumped online to celebrate like it was his birthday. The moment Boosie's legal trouble became public, Charleston went live, smiling ear to ear and talking like he'd been waiting for this moment forever. He even admitted he saw this coming and had been looking forward to it. Then he went further, saying it wouldn't bother him one bit if Boosie never stepped foot outside again. Meanwhile, Boosie had already shared with fans that he was tired of the whole process. Earlier this month, he admitted he agreed to a plea deal not because he felt guilty, but because the legal fight had drained him completely. He explained that the case had already been thrown out once, yet prosecutors came back harder in 2024. Now, that plea could mean losing 10 years of his life. While Boosie posts prayers online, leaning on his faith and sharing how heavy life has felt, Charleston is online celebrating, calling it a win and cracking jokes like Boosie's pain is entertainment. For anyone who doesn't know, Boosie has been in and out of legal trouble for years. But this particular case is the one that really trapped him. It all began when he was arrested for carrying a weapon he wasn't supposed to have. Federal gun charges don't go away. At first, things looked hopeful when the case was dismissed in 2023. Fans celebrated, thinking he had finally made it through the storm.
Was celebrating you taking the plea deal. I think he even said he hopes you die in jail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard.
The biggest thing right now was that you actually accepted a plea deal for your federal gun case.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been like fighting this thing from the very, very beginning?
I've been fighting for probably 3 years now, probably.
Two supporters thought Boosie was about to shift focus back to his music, family, and living life in peace. But the federal authorities had other plans. In 2024, they came back with a new indictment for the same charge, as if to say, nice try, but we're not finished with you yet. That's when Boosie had to face reality. He went on the 10th and told fans, I thought this case was over and I was going to get on with my life. But God doesn't make mistakes and I'm tired of fighting. Just like that, he accepted the plea deal. For him, this wasn't just another court case. It felt like years of running from problems and stress had finally caught up. The pressure, the endless back and forth and court hit all came crashing down at once. You could hear it in his tone. The internet quickly filled with messages of love and prayers from loyal fans. But even with all the support, Boosie sounded different. This wasn't the loud, joking, clapback Boosie people were used to. This was a man drained and worn down. His words carried faith, but also heartbreak, the kind you feel when something is slipping away and you can't stop it. It was raw, it was honest, and anyone who has followed him for years could feel the truth behind it.
Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street got no God. God do not look after street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. I just was waiting.
Boosie's life has always been full of close calls. From early drama in Baton Rouge to legal battles and health struggles, he's been dodging trouble for decades. But this time feels different. A possible 10-year sentence isn't a small matter. Every word he posted carried that heavy weight. He wasn't just updating fans, he was pleading for people to understand his pain. Meanwhile, Charleston White was on the opposite end of the spectrum. He went live, smiling like he'd hit the jackpot. He bragged that he knew Boosie wasn't going to win this case. And now that the outcome looks serious, Charleston treated it like a personal victory party. He didn't hold back at all, even making extreme comments about Boosie's future behind bars so much, so that even some of Charleston's own followers questioned what they were hearing. But this is what Charleston White does. His whole brand is built on being loud, reckless, and trolling the culture. While Boosie was likely still sitting in shock, Charleston was already turning the moment into viral content, cracking jokes for laughs. The timing was cold. Charleston going off online isn't new, but when it comes to Boosie, it doesn't feel like trolling anymore. It feels personal. Interview.
Now it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up. They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge. The case got.
And Boosie hits a rough patch or faces a legal case, Charleston White is there like clockwork. Front row with a microphone, laughing and taunting. People are starting to wonder why Charleston goes after Boosie so hard. This isn't just internet drama, it has history behind it. The tension really began back in late 2022. Around that time, Kanye West went viral for wearing a White Lives Matter shirt. Boosie wasn't having it. He called Kanye out for disrespecting the black community. Many people agreed with Boosie, but Charleston White wasn't about to let it slide. he jumped online and went after Boosie, saying he had no right to speak on Kanye. That's when things turned from petty to ugly. Instead of keeping it between grown men, Charleston dragged Boosie's son Tootie Raw into the situation. And not just him, he pulled T.I.'s son, King Harris, into the mess too. Charleston insulted them, mocked their looks, claimed they couldn't fight, and even made ugly predictions about their futures.
Kanye because of the
Nah, it's Kanye West. It just happened. Nigga been coming at me. He been coming at me. It's just, I can't respond to those people, bro. Like, that's a danger to what I got going on. You can't take no risk of losing this.
It was beyond messy. People realized Charleston wasn't just playing a character for the internet, he was intentionally trying to cut deep, no matter how far he had to go. Even involving people's kids was crossing a serious line. What shocked many was Boosie's response. Instead of firing back like most expected, he stayed calm and strategic. In an interview with Tony the Closer, Boosie explained that reacting the wrong way could have landed him in more trouble, especially since kids were being mentioned. He knew the system was watching closely, and one bad move could have flipped everything against him. So instead of snapping back, Boosie stayed cool and calculated. In that interview, he made it clear he wasn't scared of Charleston at all, but he knew Charleston's whole tactic was bait. Get Boosie to say the wrong thing, then let the law do the rest. Boosie refused to fall for it. On the outside, he appeared calm, but inside, the anger was still burning. By early 2023, the situation had grown even bigger. The back and forth was no longer just petty online jabs, it had turned into full-blown tension. Charleston was already mocking T.I. over his paperwork party, as usual stirring things up. Then Boosie's son Tootie Raw stepped into the drama himself.
I'm gonna go to trial with it from the dump, actually, but I feel like this the right move for me. I trust in God.
Raw clapped back at Charleston, calling him old, dusty, messy, and even telling him to disappear for good. That's when Charleston lost it. He went live again and said something so outrageous people couldn't believe their ears. He flat out wished that Boosie's health would fail and that he'd miss his medication 1 month. It was cruel, heartless, and way beyond normal trolling. And all of this just to go at Tootie. That showed how low Charleston was willing to go. Then, while the internet was still buzzing about that, Tootie was arrested later the same month, in a case involving firearms. And guess who jumped up the very same day to take credit? Charleston White. He acted like it was his personal victory, bragging online and celebrating as if he had planned the whole thing himself. Charleston even claimed he was directly involved. He bragged about calling the police on Boosie's son, saying he sent photos, dropped tips, and contacted the Department of Public Safety like he was law enforcement. And he was proud of it. But that wasn't the end.
That newborn baby Boosie won't get to see that newborn baby till that baby be walking and talking. Boosie going to jail!
7 Charleston also claimed authorities were already keeping an eye on Tootie because, in his words, Boosie was a repeat offender who used kids to handle street business. That was the turning point. The beef had gone from just words online to real-life consequences. Less than 3 months later, Boosie himself was arrested again, this time in San Diego, right after leaving a courtroom. And once again, Charleston couldn't wait to celebrate. He jumped on Instagram Live, calling it all part of God's plan. He went full preacher mode, comparing Boosie to Daniel in the lion's den. He tried to turn Boosie's arrest into a religious message, saying prison was some kind of divine test. Some people thought he was joking. Others thought he was dead serious. Either way, it was disrespectful. He was clearly using Boosie's pain for content.
Waiting for the FBI to send me the right kind of number, because I'm finna make a report on your mother people. And you make the man call your name specifically. The promoter specifically said your mother name, Lil Boosie. He implemented you and implicated you. Finna go to jail, back to jail. You gonna be on your knees, but them knees gonna be.
Boosie finally addressed it on Vlad TV. He admitted he didn't even want Vlad to give Charleston a platform after what he said about his son. Boosie made it clear it wasn't about fear. He stayed calm on the outside, but you could tell Charleston was constantly on his mind. At this point, Charleston was more than a trolley, was a shadow following Boosie everywhere. By early 2024, the beef had spread. It wasn't just interviews or live streams anymore. It was everywhere. Streamer Adin Ross had plans to host Boosie on his show. That could have been a big moment, but Boosie reportedly turned it down because he didn't want anything to do with Charleston. Adin then flipped the story, claiming he turned Boosie down out of respect for Charleston. The rumor spread fast on social media until DJ Vlad shut it down. Vlad called Adin out, reminding everyone of Charleston's disturbing past statements like praising dangerous people and denying real historical tragedies. Vlad didn't hold back. That whole mess proved something big. Charleston's name had reached, even young streamers were using it for clout. But Charleston wasn't slowing down. In March, he jumped back online with a new accusation.
Because, my opinion can send me to prison. So I ain't really, I ain't really got no opinion on them, once you go to threaten people's kids, talking about you gotta lie. So, I ain't the one gonna do all that. I ain't gonna do all that, you know what I'm saying? It's just, hey, certain people you can't really express opinions on, and he one of those. You can't express how you feel because you might end up in prison, and I ain't getting tricked off.
This time, Charleston claimed Boosie had told promoters not to book him. He spun it into a rant, saying it was threats, and bragged that he had tipped off the feds again like he was waiting for the smallest excuse to pull big moves. He even dragged Boosie's health back into the drama, just to make it personal. And of course, he went live swearing he'd get Boosie caught up for real, bragging about having the FBI on speed dial. Charleston didn't provide proof, just more loud claims. But he repeated it so much that people started running with it. That's the dangerous part. Even Boosie admitted in an interview that he'd been getting calls from guys already in prison asking, when you pulling up? Imagine that he's out here trying to hold his life together while facing a federal sentence. And inmates are joking like his bed is already reserved. That's not just disrespectful, it's humiliating. And Charleston knows exactly what he's doing. That kind of psychological pressure is planned. Some believe this is why Boosie didn't want a trial. He accepted the plea quickly. And really, can you blame him? Imagine Charleston White showing up to Courtroom. Already know he would have turned it into a circus.
Boosie, you done got too much. You done let these niggas play you too motherfuckers. This internet dumb and say what Lil Tootie gonna do now? What Lil Tootie say? Listen, Vlad TV. Vlad post everybody going to jail but Boosie. Somebody tag Vlad TV.
He could have been testifying, pointing fingers, live streaming from the parking lot, and dropping interviews 5 minutes later. Chaos is what Charleston thrives on, and the courtroom would have been his biggest stage yet. And it's not impossible. Charleston openly admits he works with law enforcement and has no shame about it. He's not trying to act street. He even talks about his past when he was just 14 and got caught up in a robbery with other teens. During that incident, one of them, Antoine Doolittle, allegedly fired a shot that killed a man named Michael Levy. That case followed Charleston for years, but he never ran from it. He actually uses it as a badge, saying he survived because he was smart enough to work the system. When it was his turn in court, Charleston testified, in street culture, that's a big no-go. Even though he was just a kid, people never let it slide. They still call him a snitch for testifying against someone in his crew. But Charleston flips it differently. He says he was young, he told the truth, and that was survival, not snitching. He says it proudly, as if it was the smartest move he ever made. But that old case is what makes everything today even messier.
I'm not a criminal. I'm a kid who was raised to tell the truth. When my mama come in and say, son, what happened? Mama, I didn't do that. I got to pay for a lawyer. I got 2 lawyers, Carl Mallory and Louis Stearns. Louis Stearns became Judge Stearns, Judge Louis Stearns. But nigga, I had 2 paid for lawyers. My mama is a well-to-do mama. I'm just playing, I ain't playing. I'm an adolescent going through an adolescent stage of rebelliousness. I ain't no street. Hell yeah, I'm gonna tell on you. I've been telling since I was a little bit.
That juvenile case recently resurfaced online, and when it did, the internet exploded. People dragged Charleston, calling him a hypocrite. They said, you can't spend your time calling rappers snitches, then brag about snitching yourself. Clips of him admitting it started circulating, and it gave his critics plenty of ammo. But Charleston didn't back down. He doubled down. He said he's never lived by the street code and never claimed to. He said he doesn't care who's mad. Still, the contradiction is hard to miss. He calls other rappers rats while standing proudly in his own confession. That's why some people started side-eyeing Boosie for taking the plea deal. Because the last thing Boosie wanted was a trial where Charleston could suddenly show up and turn the whole courtroom into his stage. We're talking about a man who brags about calling cops, tipping off the feds, and testifying as a teen. If Charleston had the chance, he would have shown up in court, suited up, pointing fingers, and going live afterwards saying, yep, I helped put Boosie away. That's not far-fetched. That's exactly the type of move he lives for. And that's why Charleston is celebrating so loudly now. To him, this isn't just another rapper in trouble, it's personal. It's karma, proof that every time he trolled Boosie, dragged Tootie, or went on a rant, it was leading to this moment. Tracing it back to 2022, The attacks were never random. The trolling had a target. Maybe Charleston was waiting for this all along. Boosie, staring at a possible 10-year sentence. Right now, Boosie is still free, but with that plea deal on the table, a full decade behind bars is very real. And Charleston, he's already online clowning like he just won a championship. The streets are watching. Some people are laughing. Others are waiting to see if that final gavel drops. And here's the thought that chills most: if Charleston is this loud, while Boosie's still walking free. Imagine the chaos if Boosie actually gets sentenced.